Well, hello to all of you out in podcast land. This is Harbor Rock Wealth Management's first of many podcast series, Life, Health, and Wealth. My name's Jimmy Luster. I'm here with my good friend and partner, Ruben Smith.
Happy to be here. Yeah. Long time coming.
So what we plan on discussing on this podcast series is financially driven topics and how they relate to our financial lifestyle and subject matter that we all have questions about. Today, you just get us, but in the future, we're going to have some guests that are experts in their field, and they can come in and give us their advice.
That's not such a bad thing. I think we do okay, you know. But yeah, our clients hear from us a lot, and this will be a good opportunity to bring in other financial experts to where we can ask questions as if we were our clients,
Right.
You know,
So
in their shoes.
Yeah, we're being, trying to be that true advocate for our clients.
Now, it's not all going to be just boring finances, too. So we're going to try and bring in guests, whether it's travel and leisure, local influencers within our community, but we'll try to keep it our style a little bit lighthearted, too.
Right. So before we get started, I do have a stat of the day, so to say, that I'd like to share with us. So
Let's hear it.
And it's actually I like to do sports stats of the day, but this is a sport and film. So it's a double-edged. So in this day in history, in 1984, the movie with the great Robert Redford, The Natural,
Yes.
came out. Do you remember seeing that movie?
I don't think I saw it in the theater. I was too young, but definitely it was one of my go-tos growing up.
Iconic, right?
Yeah,
We're both
absolutely.
baseball fans, and
Yeah.
and it was pretty great. So in that movie, which most people listening have probably seen this movie, he makes a bat from a tree that gets struck by lightning, right? There's a lot of other nuances into this story. It's quite a great story, but he makes this bat and he puts a lightning bolt on the bat and he calls it Wonder Boy. So this reminds me of my personal life growing up. People that know me well know that baseball was a big part of my life. My dad was heavily involved in my baseball career, especially as a child. And after we saw this movie, every year on my bats that he would get me, he'd put a lightning bolt on my bat. Now, it was with a magic marker, because it wasn't a wood bat, it was a metal bat, and he would write Luster Boy instead of Wonder Boy on the bat. So just a little personal story about me.
All right. Well, I didn't know that. I've known you for almost 9 years, and I didn't know that.
So I'm sharing that with you.
Yeah.
Also, we're sitting here just about a week after our 1-year anniversary of Harbor Rock. So that's pretty exciting. We didn't become a bad statistic. We're on the other side.
Yeah. Doors are still open, right.
That virtual hump over the 1-year mark, so to say. And things are going quite well, and we're at a little bit different pace. So what's interesting about that is that I was also reading a little bit about the movie Back to the Future. So we all know this movie, and it kind of aged me a little bit, especially as we're looking at being just over our year mark with Harbor Rock. So if you remember in that movie, they are in 1985 and they go back to 1955. So that's 30 years, right? So what got me was they said, if that movie was coming out today, in 2023, they'd be going back to 1993. So I was like, wow. First of all, that doesn't even seem that long ago. Second of all, 1993 is after where they started in 1985. So this 30-year span, it can really age you. So do you know what you were doing in 1993?
Well, I'm still waiting for the hoverboard. So if that's ever coming out, I probably shouldn't, knowing my history with riding skateboards of late.
Well, it doesn't work over water, and we're by the ocean, so,
1993 was, that would have been a good year. I was living probably a half mile away from where we're at today. I was living on the 9th hole of Shore Cliffs, walking to school some days getting a ride, some days riding my bike. I was here in the local area and going to Yummy Yogurt, some of the old staples that were in the area here. Spent a lot of time out on the 9th hole or the Shore Cliffs golf course. My brother and I taught ourselves how to golf out there. And we would go out there pretty much every night, whether it's to play football, have a catch, or wait for the marshals to drive by with all the flags so we can go out there and chip and putt and play.
There might have also been a rumor that you guys snuck on to the driving range at night.
There were a few occasions, yeah, where we found a hole in the back of the driving range where in the net where you could walk through. So we went out there with 5-gallon buckets, and we took a few practice balls back to us, and somehow we ended up with at one point we had a practice mat on our patio, and we were hitting over the ravine, over 9.
Somehow a practice mat made it into your backyard.
I was not a part of that, but I do remember coming out on the patio one day and seeing basically a full driving range set up. So
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, 1993, that was a good year.
So before we dive into a little bit more about Harbor Rock and what we're doing now, here we are doing a podcast. I mean, we're not podcasters, are we? I mean,
no.
Well, what I was going to say too is that you can definitely, beyond being well versed in financial services now, Ruben, you can definitely add podcast setup expert. We wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for your work over the past few weeks with you fighting cords and plugging in equipment and replugging in equipment, and yeah, that was quite a process.
Yeah, I think our clients should be rest assured that I'm going to stick to financial planning. The fact that it took 2 months to get to this point where we hit record, it's a whole nother world out here. I'm just hoping that this actually gets to a point to where we can broadcast it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, if you would have asked me a year ago or 2 years ago, 3, I mean, a lot's happened over the last few years with COVID and everything. If I would ever be at a point where we would do a podcast or have a YouTube channel,
Right.
I would say no way.
Right.
But when you take that leap of faith and open your own business and have the experiences that we've had over the last year, I don't know, you become more willing to be vulnerable, and that's I think that's really what's guiding this, is that we're not looking to match up with any of the top podcasts out there. All we're looking to do is be a differentiator and give our clients another perspective or another resource that they can have access to regarding topics that we think are going to be relevant for them. So.
I think that's well said. That's exactly how I feel about it as well. So last Back to the Future reference.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
is
go
it
back.
Doc or who is it?
No. It's Huey Lewis. So the great Huey Lewis sings Back in Time, right, at the end of that movie. And when I was kind of reflecting, when I read that, the 30-year gap from, I was thinking about my 1993. Mm-hmm. It was my first year of high school. But as we are in the spirit of back in time, why don't we go back in time a little over a year ago?
Okay.
And when we were making that leap from our prior firm, mm-hmm. and water cooler talk became reality. I think it's important to note too, this was not an overnight escape. It really wasn't an escape. It was an enhancement, right? We were looking to spend the next 20 years or whatever that number is with a little more fulfillment in our career and be a little bit more impactful.
Right.
I like to call it the Jerry Maguire effect, right? We want to do more with less. That's not always a popular opinion, but it was popular for us, and it meant a lot to us personally. Can you elaborate on what we were thinking maybe a little over a year ago?
Yeah. There's, we don't need to go into names as far as the firm that we were with. We actually have no ill will towards that firm. We still work with them, with our clients. As far as asset management goes, we still use them from our day-to-day business standpoint. But what it boiled down to was, for me personally, I was at a crossroads where I didn't feel like I was going to be fulfilled in that business model. And
was it because things were changing, or what?
Yeah, well, it's a larger company, and any larger company, it's very common, right? You have changes from time to time, but like I said, it was at a point where, what do you do? Do you go to a similar company or a similar business model, or are you just kicking that can down the road? Or do you trust your skill set and the relationships you built with clients and your processes that you put in place, and trust that you can do this on your own? And that's what we did. Thanks to you for coming agreeing to come
Well,
with.
when you walked into my office and we had, again, water cooler talk, and it was getting closer and closer. And, there was other things both going on in our personal lives at that time that were, you have to be kicked a little bit sometimes in a good way, politely nudged to finally make that choice. And I remember you peeking your head in my office, and I don't even think you got to finish your sentence. I was like, yep. I think I was already starting to pull artwork off the wall, and
I was surprised you had the paper box already.
I was ready to go.
You said, now? Is this happening?
I was like, did you bring your wagon? I have a few things. I've been here 12 years. I have a few things. It's going to take me a little while.
Well, full disclosure, James did have a Harbor Rock Wealth Management name probably for a few years prior to our exit, if you will.
Which, Harbor Rock, that it meant a lot to both of us. We had different views of it, right?
Sure.
I grew up in San
Literally.
Juan Capistrano. Ruben's on the other end in San Clemente, peeking out at the same thing. And, speaking of Harbor Rock, I mean, a lot of important decisions for me were pondered and made there. I've sat there in good times, bad times, and now we're here in really great times. So that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, it's all working out.
So one thing that when you start a new company, you have an idea of what it's going to look like and what your message might be. Those first 3 months, drinking out of a fire hose quite a bit. When you start a business, which, I'd banked a lot of small businesses for a long time and been their advocate on the other end. So, you have an idea of what might go into it. Trust me, there's a lot more. And a lot of you listening out there have probably done it yourself. But we were as prepared as you could be. Again, there's no perfect time to do it. There's only the right time for us. And, the first few months were quite a mad dash to make sure that we were getting our message out there as quickly as possible, doing things the right way. But you have to slow down a little bit to do that and make sure you're not overstepping some bounds and missing important details. But as we continue to develop our message, and we're now a year later, things look a little different. Maybe not in a bad way, but they always look a little different than where you thought they might come from. So when we found out that we have a lot more in common with our clients, I think it really helped us to start defining the message and the kind of work and the way we want to do it and approach clients. Can you elaborate a little bit on maybe some of those things that we have in common?
Yeah. Well, going back to the transition itself, this is, as you can imagine, this is a heavily regulated industry, and there are certain ways to do it. And unfortunately, it has to come at a shock to existing clients that you're no longer with the firm. So, it was drinking out of a fire hose. We had a new system we were learning, but we also had to be very careful on how clients engaged with us. So it takes a while. It takes a while to get up and running. So that was probably the first 3 or 4 months, and then the second half of the year we focus on the financial planning component, because you can't take any information with you, whether it's a financial plan or anything. So for a lot of our clients, we had to rebuild their financial plans. Got us through the holidays, and then the dust settled, so to speak, in the first part of the year, and we were able to realize, or at least focus on our capacity. We found that we had a little bit more time back in our day. It
Right.
wasn't as fast-paced, but that's allowed us to do a number of things. One, reflect on the business and decide how we want to how we want to grow, how we want to be positioned within the community, but also re-engage with clients and customize specific program.
Like a model?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. So so clients, if they want to be contacted monthly or bi-monthly or semi-annual or annually, we're able to build a service model that is specific to them. Now, the benefit to that is that everyone's on the same page, and we're held accountable for maintaining that business model or those contacts. But also it allows us to see where we're at as far as capacity and growing, because the last thing we want to do is overpromise and underdeliver, which unfortunately I feel like at our old firm that's what it fell into.
Sure.
So we were no longer reactive or excuse me, proactive advisors there. We were reactive, and here we want to maintain being proactive in front of our clients.
I think, and to add on to that notion, I think we really want to be as non-transactional as possible. Obviously, there's some transactional business that takes place, but I think that's within the plan,
Yep.
right? These are all things. It's very, very much relationship based. It's more familial, right? I think a lot of our folks out there in the Harbor Rock family are used to hearing if I send out some correspondence or you are sending out some correspondence as the Harbor Rock family. And it truly is. And what's interesting that we found out, and we remark about it all the time, is that just because we're not at retirement doesn't mean we don't have those same things in common that our clients or our family wants, you know, at this point when they're in retirement or even after retirement. And, you know, that balance that you'd mentioned, that life balance is a commonality. Financial independence, opening up these doors were the first step to really, for us in the future, to be able to have that financial independence and fulfillment.
Yeah.
Overall. I mean, so we had on Cinco de Mayo, we had a lunch, and it was quite nice. We had about 30 to 35 of our Harbor Rock family here. It was great to see, you know, people that hadn't met yet, that we might have known for 15 to 20 years, you know, and they're finally getting to meet. And they could have been neighbors, you know, 2 streets over in San Clemente here, and they didn't even know it. But at the end of that lunch, I remember sitting with one of our great clients, someone that you've known for a very long time. And she asked us, I know you guys are proud of the work you've done in the past, but I thought it was a really neat question. She asked us, when you're driving into work now, do you feel, now that you have your business and you're actually working with less clients and you have more time to deepen those relationships, do you feel more proud driving in every day to work? And do you feel a bigger sense of responsibility to what you are doing now? And I was thinking about my drives into work, obviously, and I get a little emotional thinking about it because I do feel this sense of responsibility. We have the time in the day to do it. The pace seems right, and I think the work seems even greater. And I feel, you know, very proud of the message we're sending and how we're able to be an actual advocate for clients.
Yeah. I mean, the autonomy of owning your own business is beneficial in many ways. From a client's perspective, it's our hope that they are feeling us being more proactive, right? And more proactive means having the ability to be more having the ability to give them more time without a lot of notice too. I mean, we've had many occasions where clients are literally en route to our office, and yeah, we can make it happen. It may not be sitting with me directly, but maybe it's with you.
Right.
But yeah, doing more with less doesn't necessarily mean that we are financially benefiting more with less clients. We're being more impactful with clients, so we're able to take those deeper dives. But something you said earlier reminded me of partnership. And for the first time in my career, I'm in my 21st year as a financial advisor, I feel like I'm truly in partnership with clients. Now, I've worked with 2 great firms prior to this, but I never had the ability under those corporate umbrellas to do things like provide a taco lunch or do the Cinco de Mayo lunch, or last Sunday we had the beach cleanup down at the San Clemente Pier.
That was a great day.
And it's because of all the red tape that you have to get through. Not that we couldn't have done it. It would have taken months for approval and all this stuff. We certainly wouldn't have been able to do a podcast.
Right, and our previous firms were very philanthropic. It's, you know, they're doing great work and throwing their weight around and their power, you know, in that community. But yeah, for 2 guys to get some people together and have a few clients of ours join us, and that what a great day that was too. So
yeah,
thanks to Vicky at Stand Up to Trash, a local nonprofit here that we were able to partner
Yeah.
with. What a great first experience. I had been meaning to do a beach cleanup for years, and both of us grew up. I grew up 2 exits from the beach. You grew up literally a skateboard ride,
Right. Yeah.
down.
Very fortunate.
And I don't think either of us had really been a part of an official beach cleanup before, and it was quite an experience. I don't think we quite knew what to expect. But when I had my bag and my gloves and I was marching down the sand and the same place that I was having flashbacks of, bodyboarding during a summer night at 8 o'clock at night, I was pretty proud. I was pretty proud to be doing that. And, those are the things that I think are defining Harbor Rock.
Yeah. I mean, you can go many directions with that. But Stand Up to Trash is a great local organization, and we look to partner with them. There you go again. But we look to partner with them for many years, and there's a lot of relief when we explain to, or when we mention to a client what we had just talked about, being in partnership with them, and that we have a lot more in common with our clients than we ever thought. Whether it's peace of mind, work-life balance, fulfillment's a huge one.
Right,
So we're proud to show up here every day and work hard for our clients. If we stick to those fundamentals, we too will find our own financial independence. So it's been a great experience, and that was one of the big aha moments for me in the first part of this year. Was, oh my gosh, we are like our clients. There's a lot more common ground than I anticipated.
Well, there's a ton of personal gain for us going through these. We call these experiences, and what we call them when we sit down with a client. We have a few stages, right? First dates, we call it.
Yeah.
We have try-ons, kick the tires.
Yeah.
And exercise, right? It's never a meeting necessarily. Physically it is, but it's an exercise. And what do you do in exercise? You're strengthening yourself. You're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. These financial exercises that we go through with clients and peel back the onion, that's an overused one.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Pull back the curtain, so to say, take the deeper dive. It can't help but it's personal for us too in our own lives. Like when we go through all these things with clients and they're all sorts of different life scenarios, we're going through the same things.
Sure.
We have a lot in common there.
Sure.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about is anytime you're starting a new business and you're kind of reinventing your work, that you've been doing and how it's going to look going forward, you're always looking at how to differentiate yourselves. And not necessarily differentiate yourself in your look or feel, but maybe more so approach and your mission. So a lot of people can call themselves a financial advisor. I think it's a term of massive ambiguity in this industry.
Yeah.
And no knock against anyone else out there. There's lots of people we know personally doing great work with clients. But I think there's a difference in what you are as a certified financial planner, or also known in this industry as a CFP. Some people might have heard that term before. What are the differences between maybe a general financial advisor versus a certified financial planner? Can you give us a little insight as to how that might differentiate Harbor Rock with having you as a CFP?
Yeah, sure. So not only is there extensive education and background, a lot of universities out there are offering master's programs in financial planning where you essentially have the same educational background, the prerequisites to go sit for the CFP exam. So it's extensive. It covers pretty much every area that a client could encounter in their financial life. So whether it's estate planning, taxation, obviously investments. So
maybe a more holistic approach
well, that's just
to a client's financial life.
I think what drives a lot of clients' concerns, or a majority of clients' concerns, is money. Their asset allocation. Is their money working for them appropriately? And don't get me wrong, we need, our clients, ourselves, we need our money to work for us. However, that's not the end all be all to potentially seeing some shortfalls with clients in their financial life. So, as a CFP, there is a defined process. There's a 7-step process that we go through with clients. Now, we are not as structured and say this is step 1, this is step 2, and depending on the client's experience with financial planning and capacity, it could go quicker.
So there's more, but there's at least check marks that need to be
absolutely
checked off to make sure that you are following that process.
Sure, and we don't when we finish the data gathering session, we don't go in, okay, now it's step 3 and we're going to start building out your financial plan or analyzing it.
Right.
But with that being said, there are a few important steps, and one is the very first step. That's defining the scope of the relationship, and why I think that's important. And we do in our first date meeting or our introduction meeting is we define what it's like to work with us at Harbor Rock Wealth Management. Okay, so that's everything from our process, getting to know them. Okay, what's keeping them awake at night? It's getting to know them isn't just where's all your money and how's it invested and what do you own, and what debt do you have towards what you own. It's getting to know them as people. And so I feel like the more that we are vulnerable with our clients, whether it's a podcast or they could see our true self, the quicker we gain that trust for them. So that first meeting is very important to us because it really defines whether or not we're going to be a fit, i.e. first date.
Sure, and I think that coincides with ultimate transparency.
Totally.
And what do we try to do? We try to be vulnerable first, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a great first step in trying to remember that a lot of these people that come in here, they're overwhelmed, they're intimidated. They might have had a bad experience.
Sure. What am I going to be sold?
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
Yeah. And we can't control that. We can only control what's happening when they're in front of us and trying to ease their guard. I remember, our apparel looks a little different than when we were at the Blue Octagon,
Mm-hmm.
and it used to be fully suited up. And I think that, especially in a town like San Clemente, where a lot of our clients are from, I think that intimidated people.
Sure.
And what did when we had some early success, when we first started working with each other 8 years ago, I think one of those things, the advice that we were going to provide, ultimately, it was just as important to build that relationship and make them feel comfortable and get vulnerable first.
Sure.
And show them, hey, we are just like you. We worry about the exact same things you do.
Yeah.
I think that was very important to get on that level as quick as possible and build that mutual trust, partnership, two-way street. No Broadway, no one-way streets.
Finances can be debilitating. That's one thing I've definitely learned over the last 20 years is it can literally make people freeze. It can cause that much anxiety and stress with somebody. So our job is really to identify where they're at financially and obviously come up with prudent recommendations. But as far as being a CFP, by going through this process, it puts, I want to really emphasize that it puts the client, this is all for the client's benefit. This is not for a financial advisor's or a CFP practitioner's benefit. It does benefit us, but it's because we have created a repeatable process, right? But what it also does is because it slows down the sales cycle, if you will. For a CFP that's really following this method or putting their own spin on it, but following a set process, it's going to be a multiple meeting engagement before the client is actually a client in most cases. At least that's how we operate. So it could take 2, 3, 4 meetings with a prospective client. So every meeting, you are getting to know the client a little bit more. They're getting to know you. Oftentimes after 2 or 3 meetings, the client hasn't necessarily decided yet whether or not we're going to be a fit for them. So,
and that's okay.
It's completely fine. Everyone is different, right? As far as going back to their experience with with investments or financial planning in that process, everyone's going to have a different time frame, which when it gets to that point in the financial plan where we begin to implement some of our recommendations, we oftentimes have the clients identify, of all of the recommendations that we have, what has highest priority.
Right.
And a lot of times it has nothing to do with investing, right? It's paying down a credit card, or it's building up an emergency reserve in cash, and that's completely fine. But that's our implementation schedule, so I give them ownership in the implementation schedule, so they have a decision making there. It's not, oh, let's do the 401k and the IRAs first because that benefits us, and obviously that's how we would generate some revenue for our business. But yeah, giving them some ownership, and it just, the sales cycle is really theirs. They get to decide how fast they want to implement through it.
Right. I think a great way to stay in that spirit of what the business is, we're trying to align ourselves, I think, as more general practitioners, right? If you think about in medicine, we always say we're financial doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to say, and the similarities are pretty big, right? I mean, what do you do? What do you do when you have a cough that won't go away? You go see your GP.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when your knee hurts? You go see your GP. You're feeling some aches and pains that are a little strange. You go see your GP. So I think that's the way we really want to represent ourselves, as being more of life advisors, not just financial advisors, right, for the clients. I think that's another big differentiator. Does that mean that, we have some knowledge about insurances and how they might relate to when's appropriate to have insurance or not?
Sure.
I think you know enough to be dangerous there. Same with taxation. Does that mean that we're going to give tax advice?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. No, that's not what we do. And I think in staying with that general practitioner and surrounding ourselves with a wonderful network of experts that are specifically experts in those fields, and understanding our boundaries there and not trying to take on too much, but making sure our clients know that, hey, approach us with every financial symptom that you have. Right. Every single financial symptom that you have, we want you to call us first. Not just because we need to know what's going on, but we can help you.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where, I think our goal is to be, the CFO for clients, right? We want
Great way to put it.
And once they have their financial plan in place, we now have a sounding board to bounce any of these concerns or symptoms that you called it off. Test them. What is going on? What is the impact of this going to be? Short term, long term. What adjustments do we need to make? How can we solve for this symptom? Right.
Does that mean next week you're going to show up in a white coat and a stethoscope?
Yeah.
I want to say, prove it.
Scrubs.
Prove it.
So becoming the life advisor is also something that we've developed here in the last few months, and it goes above and beyond really the scope of what we do with the financial plan. Now, if you think about it, typically we're introduced to clients, or we work with clients initially because of investments, and then you go to the financial plan and they find out that there's more to it, right? Whether it's looking at all aspects of their financial life, and then this is almost taking it a step further, right? So we want to be that go-to for anything financial related, and we may be able to, or if we can, we will alleviate some of their stresses that they may be having. Now, it could be they have a sick loved one, okay, and someone found out they have cancer, and
sure.
What if we already had a connection, with a medical professional that we could send them to, and it's a warm introduction.
As opposed to maybe a Google search.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that extreme, right? Like a serious medical event, but it could be as simple as a jeweler or a mechanic or
a contractor,
a picture framer.
Sure.
It could be It could be a number of things. And so what we are working on here at Harbor Rock is developing a list of local contacts that we feel when push comes to shove, if clients reach out to us, they can, we would be more than happy to give them a warm introduction, and it would be an impactful one. So areas that may cause more stress than than they really want, that they want to take on.
Sure. If you can go back to any situation personally that you've been in like that, and maybe someone that you, like a mentor or someone you really trust,
Sure.
that's not necessarily in your direct circle.
Right.
But if you can think about a time when you've reached out and said, hey, I'm going through a tough moment. And I know that you know a lot of great people out there in the community. Can you point me in that direction?
Sure.
God, that feels good.
Right.
It's like a big warm hug. When something's going on, your head's spinning. It kind of slows things down a little bit.
Yeah. And going, I think for so long, the first part of my career, I've been, let's call it the first half of my career, I've been focusing on building those networks, but basically just in the financial world, not extending that to a contractor, plumber, mechanic.
Sure.
So that's one of our objectives, and that's going to be an ongoing list that we're creating for clients, and it's been well received. We've been given some introductions to some of these people that we're looking to meet from other clients, and it'll be fun to watch this evolve and see where we can actually be impactful for clients when the time comes.
I think that's great. Speaking of time, it definitely flies when you're having great conversations. And it's been really, I hate to use the word, it's been fun, but it's been enjoyable to reflect on our first year.
Sure.
Lots of thank yous. I feel like, again, I'm at the podium winning an Academy Award. I'm going to butcher all the thank yous. There's more people than we could possibly, in the amount of time even we've spent talking about this today.
Yeah.
The list is long and distinguished. Obviously, thanking you for all your work. It's been a lot of fun. Our families have been through quite a little bit of crazy over the last year,
Sure.
and especially to the stars of the show, our clients, and the people that have really supported us, who literally are making this possible for
Right.
us, and all of our great colleagues and partners that we work with.
So I want to, if you don't mind, while we wrap this up, or as we wrap this up, I want to circle back to why we're doing this, and it's again just to provide another level of service and a resource to our clients. You will be able to access this through our website. We're going to have a podcast tab once this is up and running on our website, which is HRWM.com. We're going to have a YouTube channel.
Wow.
Which sounds scary.
That's big league. Yeah.
It sounds scary. I'm still getting to know what Spotify is and Google Podcasts. So those are going to be the four areas where clients can access this. And if you are an existing client, you'll be getting an email announcing when we have updated series or episodes. But again, the point of this is to bring in experts that we feel in the financial world or could be even travel and leisure areas that we feel our clients would be interested in hearing from, and as well as community influencers. We one of our objectives here is to really ingrain ourselves within the community here in South Orange County, and we've already started doing so, but we want to build on that as well. So.
Well, I think it'll be fun for our listeners to be a fly on the wall and kind of be able to take a peek in and spend some time with us when we have some of these experts in to discuss, whatever topics that we're diving into. And, yes, we're going to geek out on certain things sometimes as, maybe estate planning or, some things that can be kind of nervy and confusing and. But I think pulling back the curtain on some of these things is important, but we're also going to maybe be helping you plan the great 3 or 4 day Napa trip.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, we have some ideas to make it light and fun as well. But that's really why we're going to have an archive. My goal is in 2 years from now, if we have a library, if you will, of maybe a couple dozen, 2-3 dozen topics for clients to have access to, or prospective clients that are kind of sizing us up, if you will.
Sure. Well, I think this first one too, this has been fun, and I think it's going to be a great way for people to get to know us.
Yeah.
I think it was as important to let people in on who we are personally, and maybe a little bit about our personality and kind of where we came from and why it was important to set up roots right here. in San Clemente.
Interesting how things come full circle. I'm a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason, whether it's good, bad. But yeah, the stars certainly have aligned professionally and personally, and can't be happier to be where we're at right now.
Great. Well, it's been fun going down memory lane. We hope you join us for our next episode, and it's been great. Thanks so much for listening. Ruben Smith is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Harbor Rock Wealth Management and LPL Financial are separate entities. California Insurance License number 0E18602. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.